gonna be a standard forever now?
Finally got a haircut after all this pandemic stuff, huh? Still happening. It's just kind of interesting to see how businesses are adjusting. Alright, what did I read today? With all that ruckus about things like police brutality, and I guess recently here about the police crashing their drone into a helicopter, is this defunding thing like a thing or something? This one says here, Vancouver City Councillor Police Union President responds to calls to defund VPD. A Vancouver City Councillor says he has received almost 2,000 emails in the last few days asking for a major defunding of the Vancouver Police Department. It is the same sentiment fueling anti-black racism protests across the globe, including in Vancouver, where defund the VPD signs pepper protest crowds. How would that even work? It says here, quote, "We can't just shut down the police force overnight," said Fry Monday on the early editions, adding he thinks Vancouver has a very good police department with well-educated officers. Fry says the city is obligated under the BC Police Act to maintain a satisfactory police force and, failing that, the province would step in, install a police force, and build the city. However, Fry says he would like to see more city resources directed to homelessness and mental health and addiction issues, so people struggling with those challenges are not essentially being policed, and police will not be called on to do as much frontline mental health work. Saying, quote, "We need to start making those new investments now so we can gradually move away from that kind of police model that we see today and allow the police to focus on catching real bad guys," said Fry. Catch real bad guys. Think about that just for other things in general. Hey, are you listening there, Transport Canada? You don't focus on toy drones, focus on actual bad guys or real accidents? I guess with that thought, with things like drones, apparently with things like that Predator drone flying over Minneapolis, like people want inquiries about it. This one says, drone surveillance of protests comes under fire. Predator drone was observed flying over protests in Minneapolis on May 29th. That was the one where you could actually see, I guess, the flight path of the actual drone. And I guess with this, they're telling them to cut it out because it potentially, I guess, violates their rights. It says the government's use of cutting-edge surveillance to monitor protests is coming under scrutiny by lawmakers and activists, including conservatives who see it as a threat to constitutional rights, amid a national rethinking of a role of police. Kind of makes me think in general, let's just say they defund the police as they say, then technically would autonomous stuff like this be used more often, I guess you could say? Because they could say, hey, it doesn't cost us any money, it's just floating around or whatever, and if it sees a crime, then they'll send like an actual police. And with things like the use of drones, this one's just kind of interesting because a lot of people often judge things like the safety of drones due to weight and stuff like that. They say like, you know, a recreational guy, they shouldn't be able to do it, etc, etc. Although this one here says, Google-backed drones will drop library books so kids in Virginia can do their summer reading. Wing, the tech giant sister company, will deliver them to students in the state's Montgomery County School District. Kelly Pasek has thought of a way to get kids to read this summer. Delivery library books by drone. Pasek, a middle school librarian, was one of the first customers of a drone delivery service launched in Christiansburg, VA last year by Wing, a company owned by Google parent Alphabet. Interesting point here too, it says, after seeing how quickly her household goods and meals were delivered, she petitioned the company to take on library books too. The company said yes, and the first books fly out this week. And it says, quote, I think kids are going to be just thrilled to learn that they are going to be the first in the world to receive a library book by drone. It actually makes me curious where, in this case, if they're going to have the same type of apprehensions where people are worried that the drone, for example, is going to just crash, kill someone. I mean, they have like a book here, they're pretty heavy, aren't they? And at the same time, whether or not people would be okay with things like they said, like privacy issues and all that. But we'll see how it goes overall. I just know in terms of things like defunding the police, if you guys remember, I read that story about how the VPD here got funding for all the drones, and the amount was like what? The total? Almost $112,000 just for the equipment, and things like the ground school training, $10,675. Like after this incident in Canada, I'd be interested in saying, okay, what did you learn in drone school? Let's see how safe they actually made you. Because in practicality, it comes down to experience, not just like reading a book and understanding, I guess, like all this text and all that. Actually, when I got my advanced license and all that, I was actually asking, is there any difference between, let's just say, a police officer flying a drone versus someone like myself? And the person told me it's technically the exact same thing. Maybe that's how the police department's gonna save money for like drone operations, huh? Just go for some recreational flyer that's been flying for a long time. You need some images or whatever of a traffic jam or all that. Just call the hobbyists. I mean, it might sound silly, but honestly, since this thing is so new, I wouldn't doubt that hobbyists are actually the most skilled drone flyers if you think about it. Great, I'm officially a tree for these guys.
They're right there. Hi, little guy. Ow, he bit me. That goose bit me. That baby goose bit me.
Alright, see you guys later.